And usually, so whereas with a bar operation, you'll usually make around a 20 to 30% margin. On a banquet and catering operation, you'll probably turn over somewhere in that range as well, 20 to 30%. Sometimes even as much as 40%. And the reason you can do that is because you have a defined number of guests, so you don't have as much waste, and you have all of this upcharging. You can upcharge, like, I mean, has anybody put together an event at a hotel? I mean, have you ever seen it, like charging like $30 a plate or $40 a plate for like a piece of rubbery chicken? You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of margin in banquets. So yeah, it depends on how you're doing it. If you look at most of these properties that have like hip restaurants, they're usually a loss leader to get people into other areas, to get them into the bar, to get them into the nightclub, to get them into staying in the hotel, selling drinks on the beach. That's where they make a lot of money.
And I had noticed you had something about underwriting. If you could just elaborate a little bit on it.
Yes, let me just finish up this exercise real quick. Because I want you to see where we get from here, right? So this is the NOI, and then we all know cap rates, right? And so we divide this by, let's say it's an 8 cap, right? So it's a $29 million property. And then most people are interested, in addition to the cap rate, so we have a 100-room hotel here, they're interested in the cost per room. So it's about $300,000 per room, right? So these are benchmark numbers for evaluating a deal. And this goes to underwriting. So with underwriting, you want to know that you're getting a good deal, right? So underwriting involves so much. Underwriting involves, I have my presentation here. Underwriting involves evaluating the deal from a risk perspective, and a big part of that is the financial model. So this is one part of the financial model, right? So productively clearing your desk of deals, so you can look at more deals. So you have to have these benchmark kind of processes to understand where's the market trading per door, per room, per square foot, whatever. Where's the market trading on a cap rate? Where are the capital markets looking to get return? So how does the debt picture fit in here? How do your equity partners fit in here? So underwriting is involved very much on the financial side, on the financial modeling side. But I think a big part of underwriting is what Eric does, is really getting a sense of what's happening and what's doable in that property, right? So if I'm a deal sponsor, I bring my value in knowing who's the right person to execute on my business plan, who I'm going to sell to in the market, sell these rooms to in the market. What is the government going to think of my business plan, and how can I get them involved? So it's a big part. I mean, everybody looks at and glorifies the financial model because it's the most technical, I guess, the technical piece, and it's produces a lot of tangible artifacts. But putting the deal together involves, and underwriting involves, so much more than just the financial model. It involves a holistic approach to building a business plan that accounts for and considers many of the risks that you'll see in the execution.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. I apologize in advance, but with the NOI margin measure, can you walk back through that? Because that's actually I haven't seen an NOI margin measure before.
So, I mean, I learned this when I was doing multifamily brokerage. All right, so imagine, so the private capital multifamily world, right? These guys are well-to-do, investors, deal sponsors, right? These are guys who come to a meeting, like you're dressed like this as a broker, you know, I'm all snazzy, I got my whatever, you know, doing well. These guys come in, they're like paint-stained jeans, you know, t-shirt, they just got out of like, you know, being under a sink for 4 hours, you know, and they're just like, they roll up and they say, okay, what do you want, you know, because they don't want to deal with a broker. And you have to show them the value in their property, and a big part of that is just being able to quickly run through the analysis and say, okay, you're renting at $400 a unit, you have this many units, this is where the market's trading, your property's worth $8 million, right? You build credibility quickly because you know your stuff, right? And so that's that quick evaluation, right? And by the way, this guy that just came in his beat up truck is gonna go home to his bed, right? I mean, that's multifamily brokerage, like it's really cool. I mean, if you ever get a chance, if anyone's interested in brokerage, I highly encourage you to talk to some of these like Marcus and Millichap guys who sling private capital deals. They do an exceptional job of getting to know people who you would never even imagine the kind of deals that these guys put together. Very cool stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's basically your ability to quickly run through a deal, clear on the principal side. Your objective is to clear your desk, right? You need to clear every deal off your desk as quickly as possible, so that you can look for the one that's going to make sense and going to make you money, right? And so what this does is it says, okay, I believe the thesis that it's poorly managed hotel, right? And so I'm going to take let's just say that the revenue is what it should be and what its potential is. I'm going to increase my margin by 200 bips and go from 28% to 30%. Now I've created all this value, right? And that's where you can say, okay, now it's a reasonable thesis, right? Now I can go and spend an hour on a financial model. I can spend 30 minutes on a phone talking to a capital markets broker to see what kind of debt I can get, that kind of thing.
Mathematically, though, what are you multiplying that against? And where are you sourcing the standard margin?
So it's a lot from being in the market, right? You know your property. You know your property type. Most of the best developers, the best deal sponsors, I won't even say most, because it is all of the best deal sponsors stick to their knitting, right? They know their niche, right? So somebody who operates full service hotels very well is not going to jump into a bunch of quality inns and sleep ins and those kind of things. They're going to stick to their knitting and they're going to run full service hotels. Somebody who's running quality inns is not going to go and run a full service hotel. It doesn't make any sense. There's some stuff that translates, but really it's a big leap, right? So you stick to your knitting, and you know that a 100-room quality inn should be operating at a 35% margin. If this one's operating at 32%, there's something wrong. I could dig a little bit and then make some money on the arbitrage.
So then you're multiplying the total property revenue by the
NOI margin.
And then that's how you're coming out.
That's how you get to your NOI.
And therefore your cap.
Exactly. Well, the cap rate is applied to that NOI to get your value.
I like that. I've never seen it as an NOI margin.
Any questions? You guys are sleepy today. Like at 2 p.m. you're dropped.
More comment. One of the things that I've always found interesting, the two assets that I struggle with the most are retail and hospitality. Because I don't understand retail and I just don't know about hospitality that much. But what's interesting to me, and I'd be curious what John thinks, there is a lot of data around those two asset classes that are different than office and industrial. If I go out and I can go to JLL, Cushman, and Davis & Young, and I can get 3 office market reports for downtown Fort Lauderdale, and that office market is going to be different between the three. It's not going to be the same. But if you ask that same question on retail or hospitality, the information is a lot better. I honestly don't know why. I don't know how necessarily, but you can get like that 28% margin. You can go say, well, I don't want to get full service NOI. I need to get the quality in, the sleep in, the comfort in, and that's going to be a different number, and they're going to know what that number is in that region compared to, to somewhere else in Broward County. I find it fascinating that information is so available.
Yeah, and a big reason for that is what I have right here. This is called a STAR report. So this is what every office and industrial professional wish they had.
Yes.
This is.
It was touched on in the first part of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, you get it, right? This is like the operator is reporting the revenue numbers, that real revenue numbers, and then it's aggregated into a report like this. So you have all of this data, right, by month. Let me like zoom in on this so I can emphasize how ridiculous this is.
Is it subscriptive?
Yes, this is, but I mean,
Does it draw straight from their accounting systems, or they have to manually report it? Is there an incentive to kind of undersell it?
I mean, most of these, it just kind of flows right out of their property management system. Yeah, and in many cases, it's tied to the software that the brand gives them, so the brand automatically takes it.
Why is that? Is that because, let's say, if they're a convention hotel, they have to pay all the extra taxes and resort fees and extra fees to the cities then?
I know in Texas, as far as I know, is the only state that requires reporting of revenue per hotel. And so in Texas, you can get, it's public record to get all the revenue at each hotel. But, I mean, there's no, I mean, the revenue and the occupancy tax is just like a sales tax. I mean, you report it, self-report it. It's collected and then passed through. But this case, I mean, I don't know. So there are antitrust. There's an antitrust basis to this, and the way that STAR gets around it is they have a lot of rules about how you create your comp set. So you cannot create a comp set. Competitive set that is heavy in one brand or another, so that you can't pick apart which what your assets, individual assets, are doing.
Like for your neighbor, you can't give it your neighbor's charging.
Correct.
Oh, it's like the census. You can't drill down that one Asian family with $1 million income on the street block, but you will find it maybe in the neighborhood, but for sure within the city if you go by ethnic group and income.
Right. But there are, I mean, as far as this is concerned, there are better ways to collude in a market and violate antitrust laws. This is really just a data service.
So you had a couple of years in a junior broker position at Marcus & Millichap. What did that look like? And in your opinion, how did that shape your success now?
So it was a lot of research, and it taught me how to prospect. Above all else, that was the number one thing I learned. Prospecting is the lifeblood of brokerage, but it's also the lifeblood of deal making, right? You have to be able to find deals. And what I learned at Marcus about building a database, calling the database, staying in touch with the people, building relationships, that was so critical that I could do anything else, right? The technical side of it, learning, coming from apartments and pivoting to hotels, I could pivot to office or whatever. The challenge in making that pivot is my network's not built for that. I'm not like, I would have to restart if I pivoted to office on making those relationships. But that skill set of, you know, nurturing a network, I mean, it's everything. It's absolutely everything.
So they taught you on.
Beg your pardon?
They taught you on.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. And they do it very effectively. I mean, they destroy the phones. You know, I mean, you're talking 70, 80, 100 calls a day. You know, cold calls.
I just wanted you to go back to the underwriting.
Sure.
Because I'm still on that.
Sure.
I don't know, explain a little bit more in detail in terms of like, are you evaluating the property itself on a whole in terms of like, value, market value, or are you able to place the market value based on the revenues?
You're evaluating the deal.
Okay.
All right. So a deal, So a deal is when a property comes together with a business plan. Right? Every property will have a different. Every investor will have a different business plan for a property. I mean, there's no single business plan. I mean, even something as simple as triple net lease, where you're basically trading paper. Even like that, every investor has their own business plan, right? And so your underwriting process is basically building that business plan and verifying it. So it's build your hypothesis, and then you bring in all the support for that hypothesis, right? And so that's what underwriting essentially is. I mean, at its simplest level, it's coming up with the right questions to support your hypothesis.
All right, I think one or two more questions, please, and then we close a little bit early. Bruce.
I'll let him have his turn. We can talk later. You seem to have a lot of questions.
Hotel properties. How do you go about analyzing P&Ls? Because when you're analyzing P&Ls for a hotel, sometimes hotel owners run a lot of expenses through those hotels that are not necessarily hotel expenses.
Right.
So, like, what do you do? How do you differentiate between those expenses?
So my advice to everybody getting into the industry, if you want to be on the deal side, is underwrite everything, right? You absolutely have to underwrite everything. Even if it doesn't fit, you get a Hampton Inn come across, again, Hampton Inn. You get a Hampton Inn come across your desk, but you're focused on full service hotels, you underwrite the Hampton Inn, so you get a sense of what a Hampton Inn does, right? When you start to understand a P&L and you look at enough of these things, you get that mental model. You build the gut to say, there's something fishy about this. It just doesn't make sense that an administrative in general is so high. It just doesn't make sense that marketing is so high for that revenue, you know? So you start to get a sense, and then you start to pick it apart and drive questions back to the broker, you know, or the interview, whoever's creating you're dealing with. To figure out what's going on here. You know, because often, look, A&G is like $100,000 more than it should. You say, what happened here? You go back and say, oh, you know, that's illegal. We had an issue with an eviction, and so, you know, it's a one-time charge. Then you can take it off, and then you adjust your P&L.
So more so, you always go back and just double check with the owner.
Always. I mean, you know, again, it goes back to clearing your desk. If it's a deal you want to spend time on,
All right, one more question.
Once you spot an opportunity, like what's the percentage of probability that you're going to close it?
Oof.
I mean, after you've researched so much and you know, you're like, this is a good opportunity. Like, how?
It's a numbers game. I was talking to an investor a couple weeks ago. I was at a conference. We were on a panel together, and I asked him, you know, what are you looking at? You know, what's your deal flow look like right now? This guy probably owns about 150 hotels. I mean, big guy, has a $175 million fund, like big stuff. He has to deploy a lot of capital, right? I asked him, you know, what kind of deals are you looking at? He said, well, I underwrote 200 deals last year, and I bought 3. And the problem that he pointed out was that he can't compete with all the new money in the market. There are people overpaying for deals that he would never pay that money for those deals. So what he's been doing, he's hanging around the rim, you know, hoping that they fall out of contract, and then he picks up the pieces and gets a discount to his original offer. But yeah, it's a big numbers game. You know, I mean, for me, we look at, so the way a brokerage pipeline works is you start with cold calls, you start with calls and relationships, then you go to meetings, and then from those meetings you try to create BOV opportunities, broker opinion and value opportunities. And that's a document that basically says, look, we think on the open market your property's worth this, right? That will sit there for months, weeks, years, whatever it is, and then it'll turn into business. So our objective is not to get so many deals into listing. Our objective is to get calls, meetings, BOVs. Calls, meetings, BOVs. And then the execution side is get the listing and sell the listing. Execution's easy. Execution, you know, it's like, you know, once you do it once, you can do it again. The thing that's difficult is managing those relationships through time so that you get the opportunity to get the listing and execute. So it's really a numbers game. And so for me, you know, maybe I'll convert, you know, 25% of my BOVs, which means if I want to do 4 deals a year, 8 deals a year, then I have to be putting out, what, 16 BOVs? 32 BOVs a year. So that's kind of, you know, it's all about knowing your numbers.
Thank you.
You said that we have a great possibility of having a recession in 2020. Where do you see the hotel market shifting to? What will the hotel market look like during a recession?
Reduce revenue.
So how will owners and operators survive? And do you see, because they're buying at a high price right now,
Yeah.
and they're overpaying for it, how much of the market do you feel is going to shed during the next downturn? Or what would be the price point, if you could give me that information or summarize or guess? Or
Anybody's guess. I mean, it could be a softening, or it could be a crash. There's, you know, there's always the black swan threat out there. You know, if we have a energy crisis, you know, I mean, oil's been ticking up. You know, it's taking more wallet share. It could spark a big recession. You know, and that's what happened previously. So, I mean, it's anybody's guess. You know, there's no way to say it. Yeah, it's, you know. Follow me on the socials, guys.
Yeah.
Instagram. Come on, I post a video every day.
Shout out to your newest follower.
There we go. Also, I have a website. It's called hotelinvestortoolbox.com. A lot of the stuff that I talk about today with capitalization, that type of thing, I post a blog every week there. So just take a look, sign up for the newsletter.
Everyone who took a picture right now didn't do their homeworks and stalked him on LinkedIn, huh? I would like to thank you, John. Thank you very much for this awesome presentation. I know how hard it can be to hit students around 3 p.m. after a long day with some mathematics. We have them recall NOIs, but I think it was very refreshing because it was a different field. I have to make one short statement on housekeeping for the next session in 2 weeks. If you own a hard hat, bring the hard hat. If you show up here in flip-flops or in heels during regular classroom sessions, wear closed shoes, because part of next sessions or in 2 weeks, we're going to change gears a little bit. We're going to have the Vice President for Facilities Management of Nova Southeastern here presenting with us. And we are going to take a walk into the new dorms being constructed here on campus as part of campus housing and facilities management for this class. So be prepared that you're outside and on an active construction site. And then in the afternoon, we are going to close with some alumni coming in and making short presentations and short talk. And I will double check and double confirm again, Ken Stiles will join us as well. We also will have around 4 p.m. a small social. We're trying to find a location right now. or fix the location, but so be prepared that you are actually here and enjoy a little bit your colleagues. That said, worked out timing a little bit different, but I want to give you a homework assignment. Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, I gotta go.
So you have heard so many times about networking and staying in contact, etc. What you guys, two-part homework assignment. Everyone in this class has or has not yet, but so will have a LinkedIn account. Make one. Connect each other. It's a bare minimum. And the upgrade of the homework assignment is if you have not met this fellow student in person more than in the classroom time, pick, and you have 2 weeks time to meet up for coffee and drinks and have a conversation of at least half an hour about that fellow classmate. I will randomly ask you, have you been talking to whom? Okay? Pick someone, connect, see if you have the energy to connect further. Have a great day.